Supervivencia.
Even when the hawk sinks its talons into this launch the first defensive valve. Then they lock talons. And the battle
She definitely saw it as an easy chance to get some meat. It was a lot of mixed emotions. It was a calf, so obviously you feel sorry for the calf, and you just want to help it. But when the lioness stood up and you saw that she had an injury, you automatically feel sorry for her. But at the end of the day, it's nature. I've never seen anything like that before.
At night, various predators awake from their slumber, hungry and ready to feed. Prey must be even more vigilant as predator hour falls upon the African bush. Not a place to be, alone.
I was with my family and one other group of family friends, and we were doing a 3-week tour through Namibia. I just finished supper and we decided to take a walk up to the watering hole, and we're hoping to see some carnivores this night. I really enjoy going out at night because there's a whole lot of different creatures that come out that you don't see during the day. We heard crashing sounds through the bushes and saw a herd of zebra run by. I was getting very excited, just trying to switch the camera onto night mode, trying to make sure I had everything right. And then suddenly a zebra foal appeared in front of the lights, and it was chased by a group of hyenas. 2 of the hyenas lashed onto the back part of the baby zebra. They just started slowly eating it while it was still alive. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I think the hyenas had surprised them at night, forcing the rest of the herd to run while they singled out the foal, which was a much easier target for them to take down. They got it to the ground and started taking bites out of it there. They were just tearing strips of meat off its back. The foal was completely alone. I felt pretty terrible to watch it, but at the same time it's nature and they're just doing their best to survive.
But the abandoned zebra foal refused to give up.
It surprised me how long the foal actually stood on its legs. I mean, this is 3 or 4 hyenas going at a baby zebra foal, so I was amazed at how long it lasted. I'd say it was about 10 minutes before the hyenas had eventually subdued the zebra. The game rangers, they were saying that it's not unusual for predators to chase animals into spotlight because it blinds them and confuses them. And eventually, I think from sheer exhaustion and loss of blood and shock, it just collapsed next to the water. I felt very sorry for it. I wanted to shout and chase them away so it would survive, but at the same time, got to let nature take its course. And eventually they killed it. It stirred up some emotions in me. It was quite tragic to see them going at the baby zebra. I definitely think if the herd was there, they could have possibly pushed the hyena off it. I've been going to game reserves since I was very small, and I've always been hoping to see a kill, but I never imagined I'd see hyenas actually taking down an animal.
Africa's prey must work hard to stay alive. But every now and again, it's time for the prey to fight back. One fellow African resident that faces danger head-on is the warthog. With its lower tusks longer and sharper than a lion's canines, this bold little suid may not have the looks, but it certainly has the punch. So when this family sounder of warthogs stumbled across a coalition of cheetah, it wasn't just tourist Saki Kutsia who was in for a shock.
Me and my wife were together on this trip. We were driving down this dirt road next to the Sabi River. There were these 4 little warthogs running next to the car. A little mother, father, and the 2 babies. They were just trotting along. All of a sudden they swerved in front of the car and they went into the bushes to graze. That was when we saw the cheetahs lying under a tree. I really thought that today was the day they're going to be lunch. The warthogs just carried on grazing. and slowly getting very close to these cheetahs. One of the cheetahs got up and chased after the warthogs. They kind of looked at each other. And the cheetah went back to his buddies. My wife was adamant that we had to leave. I told her, no, we need to stay. Something's going to happen here, but it's not always something you want to see. It turned out to be quite different. The warthogs teamed up and like one pack, they chased into these cheetahs. It was unbelievable. It's not every day that you see a cheetah being chased by a warthog, which normally happens the other way around. It was really amazing. It was quite funny. I would also run away. It was as if the warthogs were teasing the cheetahs.
With one last defiant taunt at the cheetahs, this brave warthog rejoins his family.
These warthogs were fearless, brave, audacious, unbelievable.
Facing up to your greatest enemy is a huge risk, and especially when the predator in question is a 180-kilogram lioness. Although the wildebeest has slender, spindly hindquarters, this clown-faced antelope has an incredibly strong and well-built front. So it wasn't just Herman du Toit who was in for a ride.
We were on a visit at Vila. Towards the late afternoon, we decided to take a bit of a short drive up towards the eastern border of the park. There's a place called Salty Springs. And my wife actually was first to spot the action, and I had to maneuver the car off the road to get a decent shot. And there was this lioness clutching onto the neck and holding onto the nose of a wildebeest, and the wildebeest was trying its best to shake it off. And it was jumping up and down, standing its ground and shaking, trying to get rid of the lioness. My wife actually was the one that said, can't we do something to help this poor wildebeest? My wife and myself were quite anxious to see the outcome of this tussle. At that stage, it looked like it was a fairly even match. I didn't know who was going to get the upper hand. Until eventually the lion got a little bit tired and the wildebeest started trampling the lioness. I was quite amazed to see the strength of the wildebeest, that it actually could stay on its legs and how it managed to lift the lioness off the ground. But the lioness didn't have a good enough grip, and in that way he managed to shake off the lioness. Then the wildebeest started chasing. We travel a lot to nature reserves and wildlife places, but this was actually the first time that we saw something so exciting, and it was quite amazing to see that the wildebeest actually got away.
At over 2 meters high and weighing up to 7 tons, elephants are the largest land mammals on Earth. But when young elephant bulls become intoxicated with hormones, this enormous mass can become a deadly weapon with devastating results.
My husband and I went camping in the Kruger National Park. And late the one afternoon we went for a drive. Next to the road we came across 2 elephants standing very closely against each other. And we stopped to have a look because to us it looked as if they were playing. The playing, unfortunately, very soon turned into a vicious fight.
I think what we're seeing is not actually a fight between 2 bulls, but an attack of one bull on another. Generally, when bulls are fighting, they face one another head on, because that's the easiest way to defend yourself, and that's where you have the greatest punch.
It looked as if it was picking up the elephant on the ground with the tusks. The elephant just threw it down on the ground again. It was so vicious.
We don't know what led up to the situation that we're seeing here, but very clearly the bull that is being attacked is not in a good condition. And I think what is happening is the other bull, who appears to be a slightly younger bull, is unsure of what is going on. He's frustrated, he's possibly disorientated. This other bull is not responding to him. And as a result of that, he pushes this other bull, and the bull just falls down and doesn't get up, which again suggests that there's something very wrong with this bull. Any conflict is potentially dangerous. A bull in must is angry enough or hormonal enough to actually confront another bull to the point that you injure him for it to be potentially life-threatening to another bull. It's quite possible that he's actually really confused. He starts walking around the other bull. At one point, he actually lays his trunk over this bull. What he's doing is he's trying to work out for himself what is actually going on.
And the elephant kept on trumpeting.
The calls that we're hearing are not aggressive calls. They're not a sense of triumph that this bull has. They're distress calls. They're confused calls. They're almost cries for assistance.
When the rest of the herd came, they made a circle around the elephant lying on the ground.
The response that a herd shows to the loss or the death of another elephant depends on the relationship that that elephant had with the herd. The herd doesn't have a strong enough bond with the bull that has fallen down to actually come to his assistance. They're trying to work out what it is that is causing the excitement in this younger bull. When a bull comes into must, his testosterone levels increase substantially, typically 3 times the normal benchmark. And so he just becomes this raging male hormone, which clearly has some impact on his behavior and his mood.
It was a very, very vicious thing to see, because people think about elephants as these big animals, can't do anything wrong. So this opened my eyes, and I really don't want to see something like this again.
Elephants can drink up to 60 gallons of water a day and may travel up to 200 kilometers in order to find it. During times of drought, tensions can understandably flare when this resource is in such high demand, which can lead to violent conflicts, as wildlife filmmaker Don Percival experienced.
We were filming a reality wildlife show from the Hyde Safari Lodge in Wangi National Park, Zimbabwe. At the time, we were filming 2 contestants from the Netherlands and the UK who had never been to Africa before. We wanted to get to this waterhole to see if they could find some animals, in particular a leopard. It was a pretty peaceful scene. It was the end of October, so it was extremely hot and very, very dry.
Access to water is not only about drinking. Elephants use water to thermoregulate as well. And so whether or not they're visiting water holes depends not only on what they need to drink, but on the temperature, on the exposure to heat.
And next thing, this other herd of elephant pitched up and the dynamic just changed. You could just feel the tension.
What happens when elephant herds meet depends very much on the relationship between the herds. If it's herds that are closely related to one another, often the meeting is a fairly ecstatic affair. If, however, they're meeting around a limited resource, such as a water hole, often the herd arriving will displace that herd and push them off.
Next thing, all hell just broke loose. And of course, the 2 contestants were absolutely amazed. They just couldn't believe the sheer power and ferocity of these animals.
Elephant tusks are denser than bone, and wielding these elongated incisors with their 6-ton frame in battle can cause lethal damage.
We knew with all this commotion and excitement, there was no ways a leopard would come down and drink, so we moved off in search for another waterhole. Early the next morning, we went back to the site, and there we found one of the elephants had died.
Elephants are very susceptible to wounds turning septic, and so even one bull giving another bull an injury, that in itself can be a life-threatening event. So elephants in general are very cautious about fighting, and so fights to the death are not a common occurrence at all.
There was a huge gaping hole behind the front left.
Even when the hawk sinks its talons into this launch the first sinks its talons into this launch the first defensive volley. Then they lock talons, and the battle is on. This whirling is a display of dominance, force, and bravado.